I the a-hole for telling my husband I'll use my maiden name for our baby if he misses the birth? So I am 37 weeks pregnant. Due to several health complications during my pregnancy, I've been told multiple times by multiple doctors that I might have to give birth next week as opposed to 2 weeks from now. Furthermore, that I may actually go into labor this weekend or any time leading up to it. Due to these same health complications, I'm having a C-section and my doctors do not want me laboring. So should I go into labor, they're most likely pushing me through as an emergency C-section. My husband knows all of this. However, he's holding on to the 2% chance they gave him that the baby could last the 2 weeks. His sister is also pregnant, 4 weeks behind me, and her baby shower is this weekend. It will be over an hour away, and it's without traffic. So weeks ago, I declined for both of us, because it didn't seem like a good idea. Well, despite having a long conversation, the shower 2 days away has come up again. It turned into a fight, as there are multiple reasons that should I go into labor, it's just a bad situation for him to be that far away. I would list them all but character limit. Husband wants to go and support his sister and see his family, and says I'm keeping him on a short lease for something that probably isn't going to happen. I told him maybe he's right and nothing happens, but said should he choose to go and choose to take that risk, that should I go into labor, he would most likely miss the birth or be extremely late. And if he makes that choice, then I would give the baby my last name, my maiden name, versus his family name. Husband said I was an a-hole for keeping him hostage and I'm always planning for worst case, and that my thoughts are going to trigger labor more than anything. I said if he chooses to not be a part of this, should I go into labor? Why should the baby bear his name when he would fail on his duty as a father? He has been silent and moody since, only talking when absolutely necessary and saying that I'm trying to take everything from him. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the little update. Not the a-hole. I have had several emergency C-sections. Let me state this loud and clear for everyone not understanding it. Opie won't get to active labor. It won't be 12 plus hours. The minute she shows any sign of labor, they will immediately go into surgery. An hour will not be enough time to get to the hospital, get scrubbed in, and be there for delivery. In fact, Dad will be the lowest rung on the ladder, and if he's not there when Mom is wheeled in, he won't be taken in. This is not a simple birth. This is a major operation, with risks to mother and child. There's no time for waiting for Dad. There's no allowance for him being late. They will not care about him. So yes, he is 100% the a-hole if he goes an hour away from Opie, and a child that will arrive at literally any time. The fact that he isn't bothered by the fact that she would have to go through any part of that process alone is terrible. Dude sounds like he is in straight denial about how precarious his wife's situation is. Even if everything goes perfectly, a C-section is major surgery. And Opie needs someone by her side that she can trust to advocate for her while she's too incapacitated to speak for herself. And his failure to be that person for her will put a lasting dent in their marriage. He either doesn't understand how important this is, or doesn't care. This guy treats this like Opie's holding him hostage, when in fact she only wants him to be there for the birth of their child. And for what? A baby shower? That would be the last thing on my mind in that kind of situation. Not today, home. Everyone sucks here, but mainly him. He's prioritizing a baby shower. But you're the a-hole too, because you're using your baby's name as a tool and a bargaining chip. A consequence. I'd more so make it clear that he's abandoning you emotionally if he goes, and that that'll be a huge deal to you long term. Y'all need to get your relationship in order before the baby gets here, or it's gonna get even more tense. And now for the little update. Had a long doctor's appointment. Husband will not be going to the shower, as not only has it been confirmed I have to deliver next week, but I have also been put on bed rest. So that made a decision for him. He did apologize. We had to have a long conversation, and turns out his mother was pressuring a ton of this and guilt-tripping him, primarily about coming down to the shower to see his grandma, who is very old, and it's constantly a question as to how long she has. But we had a long conversation, to which it became clear we need to be low contact with mother-in-law for the time being. She has been starting other drama lately, and this was my breaking point. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law she doesn't get to ask for favors after invalidating my pain? When I was pregnant with my son, I was in a lot of pain. I went to different doctors through the course, but didn't receive a final diagnosis until after I had given birth, and I switched to a new OB. The pain made it hard for me to walk, and I was vomiting due to the pain on a regular basis. I also had a limp. My brother's wife's sister-in-law was very unsympathetic. More than once, she told me millions of women are pregnant at any given time, and I needed to learn to get on with it. That it was nowhere near as bad as I was saying. You just push through. The last time she said this, I was 7.5 months pregnant, and had just puked in my parents' bathroom and had to get my husband to help me down the stairs because I was crying with pain. It's been almost 2 years now, and I have never been the same with sister-in-law. I told her what she did hurt, but she ignored me and acted like things were fine. Fast forward, and she found herself needing help reworking her resume, and asked me for help because my career was in helping people with resumes and getting back into the job market after an absence. When she asked, I was shocked and pretty damn mad she would come to me that way. I told her she doesn't get to ask for favors after how she treated me when I was pregnant. She was pissed I would deny her help and thinks I'm petty. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You don't have to give out help just because someone asks. Millions of people rework their resume. It's nowhere near as bad as she was saying. She can just push through. Not the a-hole. And that's not petty either. When someone asks for help, you're allowed to say yes or no. Especially considering your relationship leading up to this, it should have been no surprise to her that you'd not be inclined to help. I wouldn't doubt your decision for a second. Not stay home. Just because you were pregnant and lots of pregnant people deal with health issues doesn't give her any reason to be that vile towards you. Not every pregnant person will experience pregnancy the same either. I would tell her lots of people need to rework their resume, so learn to get on with it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for changing my mind and telling my sister they can't stay with me after some jokes she made? To give some background, my sister cannot have kids. She has wanted a kid for a few years, but doesn't want one that doesn't share the same DNA as her. Her words. She asked me if I'd be willing to have a baby and give it to her, and I said no. So, my sister and her husband moved into my parents' house as their house needs working on, and she said it would take 4 to 6 months before they could move back. My mom wanted to have a family dinner yesterday and had all of my siblings and I over. Before dinner, my sister asked if they could instead move in with us because it's closer to brother-in-law's job than my parents' home is, and she didn't want to live with my parents. I asked my boyfriend if it was okay, and we agreed to let them stay with us instead. That was until she started making jokes during dinner that I seen as red flags. They were along the lines of, "You better hope I don't hide your birth control and you end up getting preggo." I kind of awkward laughed, and then she said, "Maybe I'll poke a hole or two in your rubbers." By then I stopped laughing and started to feel off vibes. I tried to steer the conversation onto something else, but she kept making the jokes. I didn't even last till the end of dinner, and told her I changed my mind about them living with us because I didn't like her jokes. They all said I'm overreacting, but my boyfriend backed me up and said it wasn't funny. We left, and since then my siblings and parents have been calling me a drama queen, and said I blew it all out of proportion and I'm making it seem like my sister is a bad person. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They weren't jokes, they were threats. She threatened to sabotage your birth control in order to force you into an unwanted/unplanned pregnancy, which would leave you with 2 choices that you shouldn't be forced to make because it would be a pregnancy that you had no hand in making true. She wants to force you into a pregnancy so she could somehow get the baby from you. I could see her calling CPS on you for the smallest things in order to force them to take the child away and place it with her. She showed you her true colors. Believe her. Do not let her near your house. And keep an extremely close eyes on your rubbers. Birth control pill/patch/shot, whatever you use that isn't an IUD basically. And never leave her alone if she has access. They were not jokes. No one makes jokes like that unless they have a mental disability in which they truly do not understand the impact this can have, meaning they hear people say it, or it's on TV, etc., like they truly cannot understand the issue with this. Or they have a hidden agenda. She has a hidden agenda. She will do this if you let her near your house. Please don't let her move in. This post made me increasingly grateful I had an IUD put in. Not stay home. Not stay home. She asked me if I'd be willing to have a baby and give it to her, and I said no. After the above, I would say that your sister is of questionable mental stability, and you cannot disregard her jokes. It would be best to stay away from her. P.S. Are you twins? If you were, that would really spice up the story. No, we're 5 years apart. I'm 21, she's 26. Not stay home. Not only are her jokes not funny, but highly inappropriate. I'm also trying to understand. So because you said no to carrying a baby for her, she was hoping you would get pregnant. And just what, give it to her? Okay, we've had this discussion before when I was 18 or 19. She asked if I ever accidentally gotten pregnant. Instead of terminating or putting the baby up for adoption, I should give it to her. At that time, I didn't even know how to reply. And my boyfriend, same one as now, told her would step up and be parents if it came to that, not give our baby away. She didn't like that response. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for lying about a pregnancy? So this happened a while ago, but it's still an ongoing tension in our family. I got a positive pregnancy test at 3.5 weeks, before I missed my period. My significant other and I decided we wouldn't tell anyone until we were much farther along. I had sent a photo of our house to a family member as we just got into our new place, and they managed to zoom into my counter and see my prenatals. It asked me straight up if I was pregnant over text. I was about 5 weeks then, but I still hadn't even had a doctor confirm. I said not yet, and that I was taking them because of our birth control method, which isn't super accurate, and if a baby were to occur, I'd want it to have the nutrients it needs. All of that was true. I'd been taking prenatals for almost a year because of that, and that is why I had prenatals in the first place. It was only the last week and a half or so that I'd been taking them for a specific pregnancy. Anyways, fast forward a few weeks and I became really sick in my pregnancy, and my significant other couldn't actually hide it anymore, so we told both our families. While we were telling them, I apologized to the family member and said that we'd want to wait to confirm our pregnancy and get farther along before we told anyone. They seemed fine then, but then stopped all communication with me and talked badly about me behind my back to other family members. A few months later, they texted me saying they hated me over this, and again I apologized. I explained myself and how it wasn't personal at all, but rather what we decided as a couple to keep to ourselves and should put me on the spot. This has now gone on over a year. We've had the baby and they're still acting this way, after 2 sincere apologies. At this point, I feel like it's their problem. I was under the impression that it's inappropriate to actually ask someone if they're pregnant. But even if it wasn't, and it was bad that I'd lied, I still apologized twice. Am I the a-hole in this? Firm not the a-hole. They shouldn't have asked you about it in the first place. And you had every right to keep it a secret until you were ready to tell people. I think them cutting contact with you did you a favor. What do the other family members they talk about you to feel about it? I'm also assuming prenatals are multivitamins/supplements? In which case, I'm really impressed the photo of your house was high resolution enough they could zoom in to identify them. Thank you. I was starting to feel really crazy that I was this big jerk. I just can't imagine asking someone straight up if they were pregnant. If I'm supposed to know, I'd know. They are vitamin supplements. I looked at the photos several times, and there's no way they would have noticed without specifically zooming in to check them out. Also, the rest of the family agrees with her. They all think I'm the a-hole. My significant other is on my side though and thinks it's pretty bogus that even after I apologized, which didn't think I needed to do in the first place, they're still acting like that. Kick her toxic butt to the curb. You weren't required to tell people you're expecting till you were ready to. You've apologized and told her it isn't personal. It's just what you and your significant other had agreed upon. Really? They hate you for this? This is not a well-balanced person. Yet another reason to go no contact. No, you are not the a-hole. Yes, she literally used the word hate. I had a hard time swallowing that too because it seemed so extra over what actually happened. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents to give up hope on me getting married and giving them grandchildren? So my parents met when they were 25 and 24. They are cliché. My mom was a collegiate cheerleader and my dad was a D1 football player. They got married 4 years later. And 30 years later, they're still together today with 3 adult children. My older sister and brother both being 24 and me being 20. They both really want grandchildren. And right now, I'm the only one that they think can provide. My older brother is gay and is engaged to his fiancée and neither want kids. My sister is also engaged and to a man, but she is likely not to have kids due to her having uterine cancer as a teen, which render her infertile. She had no plans on adopting anything more than dogs, so no grandchildren from them. And then they have me. As far as I know, my swimmers are swimming and I'm interested in women, but women are not interested in me. They haven't been since I was first interested in women, and I'm a senior in college now and it's clear that I should just get used to being single. My parents constantly pressure me about dating and girls. I tell them I've tried and it just doesn't work out. My 6'2" jock of a dad assures me that I should just talk to girls and they love me, just like it worked out for him. But he's not aware of how different his life as a handsome athlete is for me. His ugly, socially awkward kid. My mom constantly says I have low self-esteem, and as a psychiatrist, she thinks she can help. But I know there's nothing wrong with my self-esteem. Recently, while I visited home, my mom lamented that I have not brought a single girl home, and that she really wants me to give her some grandkids and start a life of my own. My dad said that he's convinced I'm not trying because I'm afraid, which isn't true in the slightest. I told him I didn't feel like talking about my dating life. My mom then very passive-aggressively told me that as my mother, she really wants me to talk to her about this, and that I can talk to her about whatever. I said that this wasn't something I ever wanted to talk about again, and that they wouldn't get it anyway. My dad then said that they were two very good resources that I have if I need help with this. He then said that if I don't get dating in college, how am I ever going to start a family and give us some grandkids? This set me off, and I told them, you both need to give up any hope of grandkids or me getting married. It's not going to happen, and neither of you are remotely helpful. My mom cried and laughed, and my dad gave me a dirty look and went to comfort her. I then packed up my things and went back to my dorm. My siblings told me I was being an a-hole and completely ungrateful. Told them that they kept pushing me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Whether or not you have kids is entirely up to you and whoever you decide to partner with. However, you said a couple of things that don't mesh. One, you yourself said that women aren't interested in you and that you should get used to being single. Then you said that there's nothing wrong with your self-esteem, and implied that your mother suggesting therapy was something completely out of line. Maybe you really don't have self-esteem issues? I'm not a therapist, but saying something like, I should just get used to being single, would draw maybe some slight concern. All that said, no, you don't owe your parents grandchildren, but you should at least consider speaking to someone if you think you are destined to be single.